Everybody loves it. Across the board. A's, A pluses, A minuses for the haters. The haters are giving them A minuses. Across the board. Except for, of course, Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy, what was your grade again?
F.
F. What?
And I graded them an F last year, and guess who was right? Me.
That's
F.
true, you.
Yeah.
But you gave him an F last year, even with Drake Maye?
Yeah.
I
We'll
seriously
see on Drake Maye, Chris.
I'm a Chase
Okay.
too.
My serious grade here is B minus. Guard at number 4.
Soft.
Running back in the top 40. A kicker and a long snapper. If Bill had done that, F.
Right, we crush
You know
him.
what I mean? We crush him for that crap. But either way, Chris, now that the dust is settled, how do you think the Patriots did? How do you feel about the state of the team, the roster as we stand here today?
Yeah, it's definitely better. There's no question that it's better. And I think when you look at it, some of these moves they kind of box themselves into, like the Will Campbell situation. He can play. He's a safe pick. The question is he a tackle long term? He can fill that tackle position for the next 2-3 years and be sufficient. But is he the long-term answer there? Is he the anchor? Is he a guy that's going to be a top 10 tackle for 6, 7, 8 years? I happen to not think so. But then he'll kick inside and be a really good guard. I do think people are overhyping the class overall. They did a good job, but a lot of what they did was having to, instead of building on the foundation from last year's draft, they were trying to clean up things that they got wrong, not only in last year's draft, but frankly, last year's entire offseason. Like, are you taking Travion Henderson, number 38 overall, if Ramondre Stevenson lived up to his contract at $9 million a year?
Of course not. I mean, well, I don't want to say of course not. Maybe they wanted his quote-unquote speed back, but I think they're related in this case, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. And I think with Henderson, a player I really, really like. And if it had been a different team, I know this is going to sound weird, and it's not because I don't want the Patriots to do well. I do. But if I'm just saying a team that was maybe a little further along in their build and in their foundation, it's like, yeah, then you can take Travion Henderson at number 38. And if it turns out he's not a 3-down back or he has to be part of a tandem, but he's explosive, who cares? Doesn't matter. He's still a weapon for you. With the Patriots, he can't just be a weapon at 30. He has to be the weapon, capital T. The way that you're taking him there. He better be their James Cook. He better be Alvin Kamara, or you're looking at this and saying, you probably overdrafted this guy relative to what was there. And I've said this before, I'll say it again too. My favorite receiver in this draft, Luther Burden, the third, went one pick after you took Travion Henderson. So that's going to be a natural comparison. And you know what? They could be right and I could be dead wrong, but you're finding yourself in that comparison game again, like you were last offseason or last season, really, with Ladd McConkey and Jalen Polk. And that didn't work out really well. So overall, I give this draft a B, and I would give it a B plus if they hadn't wasted the 2 picks on the kicker and the long snapper. I just look at that and I think they were the first team to take a kicker. Again, it's similar to the Henderson pick. Okay, you do need a kicker. I understand that. But if you're going to draft that kicker, now I better get Mason Crosby. I better get Justin Tucker. I better get Steven Gostowski. I better get a guy that's going to be in the league for 10 years and be one of the 5 best kickers in the league and make multiple Pro Bowls. He can't just be any old kicker, because I could go to the UFL like the Lions did last year and find a place kicker. I don't have to waste a draft pick on that. And for this team, these draft picks are like scratch tickets, and they need as many scratch tickets as they can get and hope that they land on a windfall to upgrade the roster. So wasting a draft pick on a kicker and a long snapper, to me, that's why I take it from B plus to just straight B.
Meanwhile, Drake Maye met the media yesterday, and we got some insight into what's going on in the install of Josh McDaniels' new offense. So we're going to pick this up at the end of one question, and it bleeds into another. And Drake Maye's talking about learning Josh McDaniels' offense and the language. And Jimmy, go ahead and pick it up.
His ways, he does it, he's been offensive coordinator, been head coach, does it at a high level. His stuff works. The kind of proof's in the pudding. He's coached a lot of different guys. He coached the best to ever do it. So it's pretty cool getting to watch, old things to Tom and see how he does it. And, a bunch of different guys play at a high level in the offense, not just Tom. So it's been cool to watch and kind of learn the ways and learn the kind of ins and outs of it.
Okay, next.
His challenge there so far, how's it gone in terms of just understanding his language?
Yeah, I think, just translating the language. I think a lot of the NFL is the same type of concept or same run game, just how they call it, how the verbiage, get rid of what we called it last year and kind of install, especially teaching these other guys. And we try to stay ahead of the quarterback, so just teaching them the right verbiage and not try to revert back to, hey, we used to call it this, now we call it this. Just try to you kind of switch the lingo completely and just kind of revert to the new way and kind of don't speak in the past.
Okay, Chris, when you heard that, what'd you think?
Yeah, I didn't love that. We have heard from Mike Vrabel and others that this is going to be a different Josh McDaniels, that they're going to simplify the offense and simplify the language, and maybe that's still going to take place. But what I heard there, just based on my years in the NFL, was a quarterback who sounded like he's swimming in it a little bit and going through a not insignificant learning curve. And it's early. It's the offseason, right? So I understand that. But I don't think that's great. I didn't get the sense that this was a different and more digestible version of the offense. And I just sort of got the vibe listening to Maye and what he said and the way he said it, that right now he's not terribly sure of himself in the offense and he's not terribly confident about what he's being asked to do. And now I'm fearful that they're going to overload him when it comes to a mental standpoint, because although he's very smart and he picked up the offense last year and there were things he was asked to do at North Carolina that were significant and translate to the NFL, he is not, in my view, one of these hyper cerebral quarterbacks like Brady or Mac Jones. He's a guy that has to sort of cut it loose a little bit and just play and play off instinct. And if you have him processing instead of playing and worried about some of this other stuff, I don't think you're going to get the best Drake Maye. So I'm a little bit concerned based on body language, tone of voice, verbiage, not the verbiage of the offense, the verbiage he used, that so far he's finding this to be sort of a voluminous offense that he's trying to tackle.
Or to maybe put it another way, sorry to cut you off, Mike. I catch what you're saying here is that you get the vibe that he don't want to do any of that there thinking.
Here we go, Murray. You see, Murray immediately.
I mean, how am I supposed to take that other than that?
Here's how you would take it. He's a young quarterback.
Them are big words getting too much for me.
Just got out of college, Murray, in your tone. And he's already been handed his second offense, his second offensive coordinator, his second playbook, his second language.
Head coach.
Second head coach. Very good, Mazz. And that's exactly how you ruin a young quarterback. And I forgot this or didn't realize it. Curran said to me last night on TV, the last 2 years he was at UNC, he had a different offensive coordinator his senior year.
That's right. And that guy was terrible.
So if you go back to his junior, he's had 4 different offensive coordinators his last 4 years. I don't know what they did with the playbook down there, but it couldn't have been exactly the same. 2 of the guys, the last guy at UNC apparently was a bozo, and Van Pelt is not an offensive coordinator anywhere else. He hasn't exactly been surrounded by
stability.
Bill Walsh and Sean McVay and this thing. And it's like, it is absolutely something to keep. Even if he hadn't had all of this, just switching playbooks on a young quarterback is asking for it. They had to do it. I'm not saying they keep Alex Van Pelt, but you absolutely have to be respectful of what this does to a young quarterback, Chris.
So, Chris, can I ask you a follow-up question to this? Because typically everybody says it with every position, which is the year 2 jump. You get the year 2 jump in a player. Because of all this, do we have to reset the clock on Drake Maye?
That's a good question. I mean, we probably won't know the answer to that until training camp, but I thought it was interesting. He was asked a question. I think it was Dan Roach who asked him, basically he asked him a question along the lines of, isn't it nice this year to have like a full offseason? Because last year you had to do all the pre-draft stuff and the draft, and then you get here. And he sort of said, well, I'm paraphrasing, you take a break for a little while, but then you have to learn a new offense. So he kind of dismissed this notion that he has all this time now, and he has this offseason to enjoy in a way he didn't as a rookie. He almost made it sound like it was sort of like being a rookie again in terms of learning this thing when he mentioned, he has to learn a new offense. So I thought that was sort of interesting. I also thought it was interesting that he said when he answered the first question on McDaniels, he said he really enjoyed working with the guys last year. Like he had to get that in there, working with those guys last year. The only one who's still on the staff is Ben McAdoo, but he's been shifted now to the defensive side of the ball. So he had to get that in there. That he enjoyed that. And then there was another quote he had. They asked him about his input in the offense. He was super positive about it. But then he gets to a point and he says, I think it will be good for us because we'll be able to do a lot. It'll be challenging to find out exactly what is or isn't going to be our stuff. And I'm like, okay, he might be talking about defensive coordinators. It's going to be challenging for them. But it kind of sounds like he's saying it's going to be a challenge like for us to figure out, what we major in, what our bread and butter ultimately is going to speed because we can do so many different things. So I'm just hoping that they follow through on this idea of, Thomas Brown is the passing game coordinator and Ashton Grant's the quarterback coach and Todd Downing is the wide receivers coach. And they've all been other places, and they're going to take these concepts and ask Josh to simplify them and simplify the language, and they're going to pare down the playbook. I'm really hoping they stick to that, because if they don't, I'm afraid that they're going to overwhelm and overload Drake Maye, and they're going to hamper the best parts of Drake Maye.
Turn back the clock on Drake Maye. Is that what you asked?
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
You're supposed to make the leap.
That's not outrageous?
No. That's horrifying for them, because you're supposed to make the leap in your sophomore year in the NFL at quarterback, not turn back the clock, because them thar words are too big for
I
me.
think all of you now are.
I said from day one they got the wrong guy, but that's on the stupid kicker making that kick in Denver.
I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying he's had to reclass.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's had to reclass. It's like, dude, it's doing ninth grade all over again.
Yes. It's
more of that them that are learning.
Okay, now see, Murray's turning him into.
He's a bright guy. I mean, I know it's easy to pick on. Yes, he has a southern draw. He's not. He is a bright guy.
Well, we'll see about that.
Intelligence. He is. I mean, look, we said the same thing. I said the same thing that Murray's saying about Josh Allen, right? And Josh Allen, it turns out, he's not just out there totally as a gunslinger. He learned it. He picked it up. He knows what's going on. He's able to process as a quarterback. I'm just worried that if they make this thing too dense and don't give it to him in bite-sized pieces and with stuff he's sort of familiar with, that it could be a problem, because this isn't the McDaniels offense, as we know, is an offense that does ask a lot of the quarterback. It really does. Like, even listening to him talking about setting the protections and all that stuff, I mean, there's going to be a lot on him, and I just wonder if it kind of weighs him down a little bit in the beginning if they don't simplify it.
So we have to cut Drake Maye's strawberries into circles, otherwise he can't eat them.
You guys are obviously.
You guys are brutal.
Exactly.
Don't let me into that group.
Let's cut his grapes in half so he can chew them better.
Go ahead, Murray.
I only want snacks. I can't have the big meal.
Are we getting him Teddy Grahams now?
Don't you have them Lunchables for me? I like them.
Gerbers.
The applesauce pouches, because you can't eat an apple?
Hey, I'm just using the words that Chris has used, and same with Mazz. That's all.
Not exactly.
Some of that go-gurt.
Not exactly the same words.
Hey, Murray, you're going to get a text or call from your agent very soon.